All right, Sean, so we said these bikes will spend the majority of their life on the street. We realize that. So we're back home, one of our favorite roads near the office. Not the best weather, but
hopefully not testing too much traction control today. It's a couple of wet spots.
Yes, and you brought your clear shield, right?
No.
Okay, oh well. Well, we'll get through it. We got 4 amazing motorcycles, already got them at the track. I think they're gonna be really good on the street here. And we got 2 dudes to hang out with.
Aaron Colton's back.
Aaron Colton's back. We got rid of the road racer, Corey Alexander.
Yeah, he's gone.
Boss man, Mark Hoyer.
Yeah, Mark Hoyer's here, taking the racer's place. Hopefully we'll feel a little bit better, but he's fast too, so.
Do we have to behave in front of the boss?
I was wondering the whole way here how much we had to behave.
I don't know how we do that, but I'm still gonna have fun. Like I said, amazing motorcycles, right? I think I'm gonna see if I can find anything I dislike about the Yamaha. So far, I haven't.
I rode the Honda for the first stretch, and the thing is great. The quick shifter is awesome. But as usual, I'm just waiting for my turn on the Aprilia.
All right, guys, we're gonna get back on the road, hit some of these twisties, and we'll have an update soon, right? Let's get geared up and do this, yeah?
All right.
Okay.
I think the thing about the R1 that I like best out on the road ride is how buttoned down the bike feels. It's super predictable. It just feels really stuck to the road. I feel very confident in it. I feel like I can put it anywhere on the road I need to. I can brake in a corner a lot if I got to check up for something. It reacts in a rapid, predictable way, and I find that very confidence-inspiring.
It's got the aggression and that raw performance of the RSV4, but at the same time, it's got some of that user-friendliness of the Suzuki and the Honda kind of built into it.
The power it puts down, the way that it puts down, but it's also super smooth, so it's not real twitchy. It lets you really feel confident and safe, and then you can really, really get on it. The power in that thing and just the feeling is incredible.
Even if you made a mistake and came in a gear high, it was able to pull through the mid RPM smoothly and get you out of the corner. Or it was able to apply it smooth at the higher RPM in some of the first gear corners. So that was one thing that impressed me through and through, is the way that this bike puts the power to the ground.
The R1's pretty hard to find problems with. One of the things for me is I feel like it has some of the heaviest steering, the transitions. It just feels like you really have to mean it when you get on a corner. You really have to push that, get off that front end and take some effort. It doesn't transition as fast.
The R1 for me on the road is a little bit less comfortable, like you feel a little bit more over the front end. It feels like a very race-oriented riding position, and I think you get paid back for that by what the bike is capable of and how it feels, but it's definitely something you're giving to that bike to get something back.
I think the suspension on the R1 might need just a little bit of tuning, and I think that's one thing if you own the bike, you can kind of get a setup that's a little bit more compliant for yourself. It's definitely tuned from the factory with some pretty aggressive settings. Like, they tune this bike to go to the racetrack, and I think you just probably back that out a little bit, but I don't think it's something that you can't work around as you own this bike.
I think the R1 on the road, what it accomplishes best is combining race bike feel with the streetability. The fit and finish is beautiful, the way it sounds, the way it runs, the way the clutch feels, the way the brakes feel. Everything's really balanced, just like ultra high performance, like one of the best performing bikes, and also one of the most polished feeling.
It's just so consistently good. Everything on it is good, from the finishes to the dash to the controls. I mean, everything just feels so, the gearbox, everything is so buttoned up.
As far as the package as a whole, as what you get, I think it's the most well-rounded, and again, it's that balance between performance and comfort, and it hits the nail on the head there.
There are some other bikes now that are getting closer with the packages available, but Yamaha really invested a lot of time and effort in getting this motorcycle where it's at, and it definitely shows in a test like today.
The best thing I found in the Suzuki was the suspension on that bike. I felt really planted. I felt like the back wheel was like the center of the bike's stability, and no matter what happened, bumps, corners, adjusting line, like super predictable, nicely weighted steering. It's not the lightest and it's not the heaviest, and chassis-wise, super nice.
Just had a nice ergonomical position that's very common for the GSX-R from 600, 750, 1000 from current to years past.
And the thing about the Suzuki is it just does everything really well, so you feel more confident and you almost enjoy the ride more.
I like that you sit in the bike. I like how it feels leaned over. I like how the power is made. It's all the best things that Suzuki's have always been. It just feels really good. You feel confident on it, even if on paper it doesn't have the same specs.
The one thing that I disliked a little bit about the GSX-R, and the reason I exceptionally dislike it, is because historically GSX-Rs as a whole have had issues with brake components and brakes overheating and brake fade issues. And I really figured with this new GSX-R, the braking system as a whole would absolutely be on point. And it wasn't to the point where we were as aggressive on the track, we were experiencing overheating issues. It just didn't have that right there feel like the Aprilia and the Yamaha did throughout the day.
I have to say, top end, it tends to feel a little bit thrashier than some of the other bikes. It does not have a balance shaft, whereas like the Yamaha has a balance shaft because of the type of crankshaft it has. So the Yamaha tends to be sort of smoother and more refined overall. You feel a little bit less refinement in that sense from the Suzuki.
You start to notice the fit and finish of the bike. So this is the cheapest bike, it's the least expensive bike, I should say, in the category, which I think is fantastic, right? Like it's so good to come in at that price point, but the more time you spend with the thing, you start to realize all those cost-cutting measures that Suzuki has made. And again, they did it to hit a price point, and for the money, it really is a great package still.
The most interesting thing about the Suzuki to me is it feels most like the bike that the guy's gonna take home, blow apart, and put different components on. So it's like, it's cool that it's the price it is, and because it gives that person the latitude to go in and make it their race bike, so to speak.
Overall, I really like the Suzuki. It has kind of the least bells and whistles, it's the least special, but you just feel really good on it. It's really confidence inspiring.
They've always had great power. This one has great power, a lot more power than the Honda in the low and mid-range on the wrist. I don't know about on the dyno, but at least out here, that's how it felt.
I think Suzuki built a great motorcycle. I would have liked to see them take the platform a little bit further even. And while Suzuki took a lot of steps, you know, the VVT, big changes to the chassis, I don't think as a whole the platform took as big of a step. And so I think, wow, this is a great platform, and I think especially for a guy who wants to do some canyon carving and then some track days or even some club racing, it'll be a great platform to that. But it doesn't quite have that special touch to it, that really, you know, that emotional feeling to it. But performance-wise, it's a step up from what we had before, and I think in that sense, Suzuki's done a good job.
The Aprilia is definitely a race motorcycle. When you're exiting the corner and you crack the throttle on that thing, it by far has the most power. And when it comes to like hooligan big smiles on the face and the reason people buy leader bikes, the RSV4 definitely puts down the most power and brings big smiles there.
The Aprilia is just, it's so good. It's my favorite bike of the bunch. Fits me so well, the ergos are so good, the sound is incredible. I love the way that it makes power, where the power is in the power band, the way you can just wind it out. For the new update, they added the auto blip up and down shifter, and I love how that thing works.
And it's got a first gear that's like a racetrack first gear, so it's real tall. And so it's a really useful gear. Tight corners and stuff, you go down in the first, you just auto blip, you just entering the corner, braking, downshift, get first gear perfectly clean, execute your corner, sight the exit, and hit it in first gear, and the thing just picks up and drives out, TC and everything, like, oh, magic, super cool.
First gear really is, it's designed for like a racetrack, so first gear is super tall, which means that away from stoplights or down real low can feel a little bit chunky on the gas. I mean, the upside is that for this stuff, all these really tight, twisty turns, first gear is really usable, where most should be up in second.
On the lower end of stop and go that you experience on the street that you don't experience on the track, I definitely felt that first gear was a little tall. But in the same note, exiting some of those increasing radius sweepers and rolling on in the high end of first gear, the power pulls deep, and that's one of those things where it kind of makes up on that side. So that was just one little quirk that I found with the Aprilia.
I think Aprilia could still go another step with its electronic adjustment. It's got new switches on this bike, but they're still pretty difficult to manipulate and figure out which switch does what.
Of all of them, the Aprilia is by far the hardest to dive in and change those settings, whether it's traction control or the power modes, whatever it is. Even like, it has cruise control, and I was trying to figure out how to turn that on the freeway down here, and I couldn't. It really takes spending some time learning it, but the Aprilia definitely just gets a little confusing, the electronics.
My overall impression of the Aprilia is like race bike for the street, and they just had to make it like barely legal. And that's its attraction, but it's also what asks more of you. Like, it's so powerful and so much fun, but it's also really challenging.
I think the Aprilia overall is a great street motorcycle. You know, you're never gonna get tired of hearing that thing. Like every time you fire it up, you're gonna fall in love with it over again. The chassis, like we found on the racetrack, it's really confidence inspiring.
From the noise it makes when it fires up, to the way it feels mid-turn, the transitions. I love the brake feel on it the most. You kind of have a nice initial feel and then like a stronger, you know, really progressive bite. I'll defer to the others as far as which one is the fastest motorcycle, but in terms of the one that I feel the happiest on and the most fun on and just works the best for me, it's the Aprilia by far.
Honda did a really, really good job integrating properly and completely successfully the auto blip, upshift, downshift, and slipper clutch integration. And today I was able to experiment a lot with just trusting the system in place with the auto blip shifting and the slipper clutch, and it really did that seamlessly, and I could find a lot of enjoyment over getting used to that. It wasn't something that I was able to get used to right away because muscle memory took over about half the time, even if I consciously was thinking about letting the system take over. But the combination of RPM matching and slipper clutch and getting the thing smooth into the corner while taking downshifts and one less thing to think about with the clutch, they nailed it on that.
They got that bike really small, really light, and you really feel that, especially for these tighter turns. On the racetrack, it wasn't quite as big a deal, but here you really feel that.
It's so smooth, so light. The steering was super light, like so precise, so easy to trail brake and change line, and it was magic. Like it felt like a 600.
And you just feel like you're like, yeah, just bring it on, bring these corners on, because you just don't get tired, you don't get worn out. The tighter the road, the better. The next thing then would be just the overall smoothness of it. You're cruising down the road at a steady pace, and it's purring. You're not feeling vibrations to the handlebars, the frame, the foot pegs, anything like that. It's just a very user-friendly and enjoyable bike in that sense.
I think one thing about the Honda that I wish I could have more of was power, like top-end power. It's a beautiful running engine, and for street use, like 150, 155 at the wheel, like that's really good. But when you compare it to another bike like an Aprilia that makes 20 more horsepower on top, then you notice that.
Today in some of the slower corners, it was having an issue where even on the Suzuki, which is an inline 4 firing order, there was always mid-range power available, and sometimes on the Honda it was almost one of those things where you get into a corner in second, wish you would have downshift because there's not enough power to pull it through. But it would be awesome if it had a little bit more pick-me-up on the low and bottom end for street use.
I think if Honda could continue to fine-tune that engine platform and get a little bit more power out of the thing, they'd really bring that package up even higher for sure.
Overall, the Honda is interesting because it doesn't do a single thing wrong, and it feels like a great update. It's really nice looking, and the electronics are really nice. The display is nice, and it feels light.
It's just an overall really good street motorcycle. And my opinion is that out here on the road, you don't need that much horsepower. What's the difference between, you know, mid 140, 150 horsepower and 175? Are you really using that extra power? I think you're plenty fine with what the Honda offers up, and if that's its biggest weak point, then, you know, it's doing okay on the street.
Every time I rode it, I felt very, very comfortable. Not only ergonomically, but I felt comfortable throughout the corner. I felt comfortable under braking, and it really did most things well. But it's a great motorcycle, it's a stable motorcycle, which is definitely confidence inspiring, some of the rougher stuff and some of the off-camber corners we went to today.
Well, Sean, just don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, they make them way better.
This is true. Speaking of way better, best bike of the group. I've got it. I know I've picked it every year now since we started, you know, since it came out, but R1, like this is the bike to beat still.
You do love it.
Well, it's a good motorcycle. It's the best performing motorcycle of the group. Yes, it is now 3 years old. They came out with this thing in 2015, but even with these new motorcycles, the new electronics on the RSV4, the all-new GSX-R, the all-new CBR, the R1 is still the bike to beat. Like, it is the bike I would recommend anyone to go buy.
Sure, absolutely. And for me personally, not coming from a racer's background, I want a bike I can feel confident and go fast on, but also kind of adds the other things I love about motorcycles, the sound, the emotion, the looks, all those things. And for me personally, I think I'd have to buy the Aprilia. I love it too much. It's close enough to the Yamaha in performance, and it has so many other factors for me that's like, hey, it's fine. I'll acknowledge the R1's the best. It is the fastest. It's the best bike.
It is the winner of the 2017 Cycle World Leader Bike Comparison Test.
Absolutely.
That's the one. So there you have it. R1 still the best motorcycle in this group. Sean says he'd go for the RSV4, and honestly, I can't blame him for that. Such an exciting motorcycle. And then Suzuki and Honda, they've closed the gap, but there is still a gap there.
Still a gap, sure.
And that's our opinions. Obviously, we're gonna support them with big feature story in Cycle World magazine. You can also access that story online when it goes up. In addition to more onboard videos, we got full lap onboard of each of these bikes at Thunderhill Raceway. Please don't judge my lines, anything I do on the bike. I'm gonna say it every year. I know I do things wrong, obviously, right? Like, can't be perfect.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below.